On their wedding night, Wyatt Donovan and Isabella's marriage began not out of love, but as a twist of fate. Though married, they were like strangers. However, as time passed, Wyatt's tenderness and dominance gradually broke through Isabella's defenses. From accidental kisses to late-night protectiveness, Wyatt proved his sincerity through actions. Yet, external temptations and schemes followed, forcing Isabella to confront rivals and family conflicts. In this game of desire and power, their feelings deepened, but truth and betrayal loomed. This is a tale of love and possession, trust and betrayal. How will it end? On the wedding night, Wyatt Donovan leaned casually against the doorframe, watching as Silas unabashedly invited me out for the next day. A smirk played on his lips as he asked, "Silas, do I even exist to you?" Silas shrugged, completely unfazed. "Uncle Wyatt, it's not like this is a love match. You two are practically strangers. Doesn't mean I can't keep pursuing her." With that, he stood, bid us goodbye, and left. The room fell silent, leaving just the two of us in our new home. "You told him we're strangers?" Wyatt's voice broke the quiet. His tie was slightly loosened, tucked under his collar, and his gaze was steady as he looked at me from across the room. I was stunned. Truthfully, Wyatt and I weren't close. Our most intimate moment had been a year ago, when I'd accidentally brushed my lips against his after tripping. Beyond that, our interactions had been minimal. Before I could answer, Wyatt retreated to the bedroom. I distracted myself with a shower, but as I turned off the water, a knock came at the door. "You forgot your pajamas." Wyatt's voice floated in. "Thanks," I replied, opening the door just enough to reach out. But he didn't hand them over. "Thanks who?" His tone was light, almost teasing. Maybe it was the steam clouding my brain, but I mumbled, "Thanks, Uncle Wyatt." It was what I'd always called him, along with Silas. But now, the title felt awkward. Wyatt didn't respond. A few seconds later, he handed me the pajamas and walked away without a word. Even after 2 weeks of mentally preparing to live together, I was still nervous. I burrowed under the covers, holding my breath as Wyatt turned off the lights and slipped into bed beside me. It was our wedding night. I was ready for whatever might happen, but all he did was rest his hand on my waist, the fabric of my nightgown separating us. A low chuckle escaped him. "What, you're okay with your uncle doing this?" His sharp tongue was as cutting as ever. The darkness gave me courage. I rolled over to face him. "You're so mean." He shrugged, unbothered. "Yeah, my bad." His hand shifted slightly, fingers brushing against my side. "So, what do you call me?" He was not only mean but also persistent. In the dim moonlight, his gaze seemed to hold something I couldn't quite place. "Wyatt," I muttered, pulling the covers up to my chin. "Wyatt, Wyatt." I repeated it twice, more out of defiance than anything, before turning away. He let out a soft laugh but didn't push further. The next morning, Silas showed up to pick me up. It wasn't a date. We were going to comfort a mutual friend who'd just gone through a breakup. "Uncle Wyatt, we're heading out," Silas said, reaching for my hand. Wyatt, sitting on the couch with a cup of coffee, glanced at Silas's outstretched hand. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Silas frowned, confused. "Why not?" Wyatt looked up, his tone calm but pointed. "Because of me. Isabella's hand is a little sore today." I froze. Silas looked like he'd been struck by lightning. I debated explaining. It wasn't what it sounded like. That morning, I'd woken up in Wyatt's arms, his hand resting on my arm, leaving it slightly numb. That was all. But before I could say anything, Silas slumped into frustration for the rest of the day. After a day of failed attempts to cheer up our heartbroken friend, Silas suggested we take her to a bar. Of course, that's where we ran into Wyatt and his friends. One of them called out, "Hey, kids, wanna join us?" Silas bristled. "Who are you calling kids? I'm graduating next year, and I'm about to drink you under the table." And just like that, we were seated in an awkward setup. Me sandwiched between my childhood friend Silas and my new husband, Wyatt. I glanced at Wyatt, only to find him already looking at me. He smirked, tapping the ash off his cigarette. "Relax, it's a legit place. No escorts here." I pursed my lips, trying to sound stern. "You're married now. You shouldn't be calling for escorts anyway." Was he expecting praise? Wyatt leaned in closer, his eyes locking onto mine. "For the record, I've never called for one. Not even before we got married." His gaze was intense, almost hypnotic. I was still processing his words when someone suggested a game of truth or dare. Of course, the bottle landed on me first. And of course, the question was, when was your last kiss? Be specific, month and day. No pretending you don't remember. As the question hung in the air, Wyatt's fingers, which had been idly tapping his glass, stilled. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on me, waiting for my answer. Everyone except Wyatt. I clenched my hands tightly, my voice barely above a whisper as I replied, "Last Christmas." Wyatt paused mid-sip of his drink, turning his head slightly to look at me. He remembered, of course. It had been my first kiss, and it had been with him. A few rounds later, the bottle landed on Wyatt. He chose truth. "Same question, Mr. Donovan, when was your last kiss?" I stared down at my glass of juice, bracing myself. Someone like Wyatt probably didn't have long stretches of time between kisses. Sure enough, he chuckled low in his throat, his voice smooth and unhurried. "Last night." My head snapped up to look at him. The room erupted in a chorus of teasing cheers and whistles. When the attention shifted to the next person, I tugged subtly on Wyatt's sleeve, whispering, "You're not supposed to lie during truth or dare." Maybe, at 7 years older than me, he didn't know the rules. I thought I'd do him a favor and remind him. Wyatt's hand, holding his cigarette, jerked slightly as I pulled on his sleeve, causing ash to scatter onto his slacks. He calmly brushed it off, the cigarette still between his lips, and leaned closer to murmur, "Last night, I was minding my own business, and well, you leaned into me." He tapped his chin with a faint smirk. "You kissed me right here. Ring any bells?" I flushed, embarrassed. I'd been half asleep. Maybe it had happened. "Oh, sorry about that," I muttered, my cheeks burning. Silas, meanwhile, had wandered off to challenge someone else to a drinking contest. Before I knew it, Wyatt had cornered me in a quiet spot, his fingers tilting my chin up. "Since you apologized so nicely, I'll give you another truth." My ears and cheeks felt like they were on fire. "What?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Wyatt's thumb brushed against my chin, his touch slow and deliberate. "The time before that? Also last Christmas." My mind flashed back to that moment. The crowded street, the accidental brush of my lips against his. The sudden blast of music jolted me out of my thoughts. I slipped away from Wyatt, mumbling something about needing the bathroom to clear my head. Had Wyatt just been flirting with me? Distracted, I accidentally bumped into a drunk man on my way back. "Sorry," I said quickly, trying to move past him, but he grabbed my wrist, his grip greasy and unwelcome. "How about a drink, sweetheart? Then I'll forgive you." I glanced down, calculating where to aim my kick. Before I could act, Wyatt's voice cut through the noise. "How about I drink with you instead?" The man froze, recognizing Wyatt instantly. "Oh, hey, didn't realize she was with you, Mr. Donovan. My bad." He let go of my wrist like it was on fire. Wyatt bent down, picking up an empty bottle from the floor. He strolled over, casual as ever, and then brought the bottle down on the man's head. Wyatt seemed to decide I was hopeless. Instead of explaining, he leaned down and kissed me. Soft, brief, but enough to leave me wanting more. I stayed rooted to the spot, staring at the floor. Wyatt, apparently reading my mind, gave my ear a playful tug. "Go to bed. If I kiss you any longer, I'll miss my meeting." Cold-hearted man. I trudged back to my room, feeling oddly disappointed. Around midnight, I woke up to the sound of faint footsteps. Curious, I opened my door to find Juliana in the hallway, dressed in a silk nightgown, heading toward Wyatt, who was at the coffee machine. "There are better ways to stay awake than coffee," she purred, holding out a glass of wine. I stood motionless, watching them through a haze of smoldering resentment. Wyatt, leaning against the counter, didn't even look up. His voice was calm but laced with irritation. "I'll only say this once. I'm married. Don't push your luck." Juliana, clearly not used to being rejected, shot back. "I'm not uglier than your wife. I'm taller, longer legs." "Oh, so now she's insulting me?" I slammed the door open, and both of them turned to look at me. I stormed over, snatched the glasses from Juliana's hands, and dumped the wine all over her. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I snapped, my voice sharp. "I let you stay out of pity, and this is how you repay me? You think I'm some kind of saint who'll just take your crap?" Juliana gasped, her dress now clinging to her in all the wrong ways. I didn't stop there. I pointed at Wyatt, who was still leaning against the counter, his expression unreadable. "You, turn around. Don't look." To his credit, Wyatt hadn't even glanced at Juliana the entire time. But he obliged, a faint smirk on his lips as he turned his back. "Just so we're clear," Wyatt said, his voice cold as he pinned the man against the wall. "That's my wife." The man nodded frantically, scrambling away the moment Wyatt released him. Wyatt turned to me, a faint smile playing on his lips. "So, where were you planning to kick him?" "His leg." I blinked. It was my telltale sign of guilt. He chuckled. "Which one?" I rolled my eyes, refusing to answer, but his words echoed in my mind. "That's my wife." He'd said it so naturally, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. The rest of the night went on without a hitch, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The bar had 3 levels, with the basement being a private pool room reserved exclusively for the inner circle. I was busy pestering the bartender, begging her to mix me something pretty but not too strong, when Wyatt got cornered. Mr. Donovan, a woman in a striking black dress purred, her eyes locked on him with unmistakable interest. I want you to be my personal muse. Mind sharing your contact info? Wyatt, sleeves rolled up to his forearms, had been on a winning streak, sinking 7 balls in a row, but her interruption caused him to miss the 8th. He straightened up, glancing at her outstretched phone but not taking it. Didn't you hear? I'm married. Standing not far away, I let out a breath of relief. He could easily make the top 3 in the Husband of the Year rankings. The woman tossed her hair and smiled. I don't mind. I froze, my irritation bubbling up. Wyatt spotted me and raised an eyebrow, walking over with his pool cue in hand. Do you know what she's after? I hesitated. Was it about his wealth? Some business deal? My mind raced with possibilities until Wyatt cut through my thoughts. She's trying to hit on your husband. Oh, I said flatly. So, you're just here to rub it in that you're popular? I glared at him, unsure why he felt the need to brag about being pursued. Wyatt leaned in, his voice low and teasing. Isabella, you need to make it clear, I'm yours. He closed the distance between us until only a few inches remained. The bartender had discreetly vanished, but the woman in black was still watching. I felt a strange sense of alignment with Wyatt's thoughts. How do we do that? My gaze dropped to his lips. His voice was a deep, magnetic rumble, like this. With that, he brushed a soft, fleeting kiss against the corner of my mouth. When I opened my eyes, the woman was gone. Wyatt's throat bobbed as he leaned in again, but a loud voice interrupted us. Hey, Donovan, what are you doing down here? I jumped, pushing Wyatt away. He shot the intruder, one of his childhood friends, a sharp look. Get lost. The friend glanced between us, quickly catching on. My bad, I'll get out of your hair. As he retreated, Wyatt's arm slid around my waist, pulling me close again. I ducked my head, avoiding his gaze. What's wrong? He asked, his voice soft but insistent. I blinked rapidly, mumbling, someone else might come. After a moment, he straightened up, taking my hand. Let's go. Where? I asked, my face still warm. He didn't look back, his tone calm. Somewhere with no interruptions. Wyatt had downed several strong cocktails that night, and I was pretty sure he was drunk. Otherwise, he wouldn't have pinned me against the car seat the second the driver stepped away. Can I kiss you now? He asked, his voice laced with amusement. I bit my lip, debating whether to play coy or just go for it, but the moment was shattered by a sharp cry from outside. Let me go. It was the woman in the black dress, now being harassed by Landon Trent, a notorious playboy. Come on, don't play hard to get. You dressed like that for a reason, right? Get off me. The parking lot was empty, the perfect setting for trouble. I tugged on Wyatt's sleeve. You have to help her. He's going to drag her into his car. It wasn't about being overly altruistic. Despite my earlier annoyance with her, I couldn't stand by and watch something so awful happen to anyone. Wyatt didn't argue. He stepped out of the car, standing casually by the door, his voice cool but firm. Mr. Trent, don't you think this is a bit too shameless? Landon paused, turning to glare at Wyatt. The woman seized the moment to break free, darting behind Wyatt for safety. And who might this be in relation to Mr. Donovan? Landon narrowed his eyes, sizing Wyatt up. Wyatt smirked. No relation to me whatsoever. Just can't stand seeing a man act like a wild animal in public. His tone was cutting, as always. Save yourself the embarrassment. The only ones I've seen behave like this are stray dogs. Landon's face turned red with fury, veins bulging in his neck. But he bit back whatever retort he had, storming off after throwing one last glare in our direction. Even through the one-way glass, I could feel his eyes on me. The woman climbed into the car, letting out a shaky breath. Thank you, Wyatt. I thought I was going to have to fight that guy off. Wyatt, seated in the passenger seat, glanced at her through the rearview mirror. Who are you again? Juliana Chase, she said, her voice trembling. You don't remember me? Why did you help me, then? I leaned forward, pointing to myself. I'm the one who told him to help you. Got it? Juliana finally explained. She'd met Wyatt at a party 3 years ago, before she moved abroad. She'd recognized him in the pool room and had only flirted to see if he remembered her. As she spoke, Wyatt's car Bluetooth chimed with an incoming call from his mother. Wyatt, is Juliana with you? She just got back to the country and has nowhere to stay. Let her stay with you for a few days. I immediately sensed trouble, but Wyatt, ever the model husband, shut it down. If she needs a place, she can stay at a hotel. His mother fired back with a litany of excuses. Hotels weren't safe. A young woman shouldn't be alone. But Wyatt held firm. Then, Juliana turned to me with pleading eyes. I'm really scared. Can I just stay for one night? My gaze fell on the bruises and torn fabric at her neck. Reluctantly, I nodded. Fine. Wyatt caught my eyes in the rearview mirror, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. Juliana was polite and friendly after that, not another word directed at Wyatt. When we got home, I might have been a little petty, putting her in the guest room farthest from ours. Wyatt gave the back of my neck a gentle squeeze, checking his watch. I've got a conference call. Go to bed. I nodded, yawning, but as I turned to leave, he caught my wrist. That's it? His tone was unreadable. I blinked, confused. Don't stay up too late? Was this some kind of marital etiquette I was missing? Juliana, however, was still staring at him like a lovesick puppy. I rolled my eyes, my anger boiling over. Put some clothes on. You're embarrassing yourself. I grabbed a dish towel and threw it at her. I groaned. This man had no filter. After my period ended, Wyatt seemed to develop a kissing addiction. Every morning before work and every evening when he got home, he'd pull me into his arms and kiss me until I was breathless. But he always stopped before things went too far, as if he was helping me get used to the intimacy. That training came to an end during a trip to a vineyard owned by the bar's owner, who'd invited us to make up for the incident with Landon. The owner, unaware of the tension, had invited Landon too. The moment Landon walked in, his eyes landed on me before he quickly looked away, his expression unreadable. Later that night, the couple in the room next to ours got a little too loud. I glanced at Wyatt, only to find him watching me with an intensity that made my stomach flip. What do we do? They've got me all worked up, he murmured, his voice low and rough. I panicked, my voice barely a whisper. What? Wyatt backed me against the door, his hand sliding under my shirt in a way that left no room for misunderstanding. What do you think? He made sure I could feel exactly how worked up he was. Just then, a knock interrupted us. Isabella, Uncle Wyatt, heard you guys were here too. Silas's voice was cheerful and oblivious. We're having a barbecue downstairs. Come join us. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. Silas is here, but Wyatt wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on my lips, his gaze dark and intent. So? He murmured, his voice low and rough. Is he going to stop us? Before I could answer, he scooped me up and carried me toward the bed. No, he answered his own question with a low chuckle. Silas kept knocking, his voice muffled through the door. Hello? Are you guys in there? She sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. What's the matter? Feeling threatened? You know you can't compete with me. Besides, I never asked you to save me. Don't play the savior card now. Wyatt's smile vanished, his eyes turning icy. He was about to turn and say something, but I stopped him. I'll handle this. Then I turned to Juliana. You're right. I shouldn't have bothered saving you. Before she could respond, I grabbed her arm and dragged her to the front door. I shoved her outside, slamming the door behind her. I'll call Landon to come pick you up, I shouted through the door, knowing full well I wouldn't. Juliana's frantic pleas echoed from the other side, but I ignored them. Wyatt watched the whole scene unfold, his arms crossed as he leaned against the counter. You're not really calling Landon, are you? I huffed, crossing my arms. Of course not. I'm not that petty. Instead, I decided to let Juliana shiver outside for an hour before having Wyatt's driver come pick her up. After making the call, Wyatt walked over and scooped me up into his arms. It was only then I realized I wasn't wearing shoes. His eyes, always so full of mischief, met mine. Why were you so mad at her? You're the one who told Silas we were strangers. How could a 28-year-old man be so petty, holding onto a single sentence for so long? I just told him seriously, I'm just a bit possessive. Wyatt chuckled, carrying me into the bedroom and setting me down on the bed. He leaned over me, his arms caging me in. So, you're saying you have a possessive streak? I swallowed hard, my face heating up. Yeah, is that a problem? He tilted his head, his gaze intense. You can't claim to be possessive if you've never actually claimed me. I knew where this was going. Before he could lean in, I turned my head away. Wyatt paused, then rolled onto his side of the bed. Fine, sleep. I burrowed under the covers, but after a moment, I turned to face him. He was still awake, watching me. I just realized my period came early. I mumbled, my face burning. And the way you were looking at me earlier, I didn't think you'd stop at just kissing. Wyatt's hand rested on my waist, his fingers lightly tracing circles. What kind of look was that? I hesitated, my voice barely above a whisper. You know what I mean. He smirked but didn't push further. Instead, he pulled me closer, his arms wrapping around me. Good night, Isabella, he murmured, pressing a soft kiss to my forehead. I should have known Juliana wouldn't let it go. She went straight to Wyatt's mother, spinning some sob story about how I'd thrown her out in the cold. The next morning, I was jolted awake by the sound of raised voices. Recognizing Wyatt's mother's voice, I quickly got ready and tiptoed to the door, pressing my ear against it to hear the conversation. "Wyatt, how could you throw Juliana out in the middle of the night? No matter how out of line she was, that's no way to treat her like this." I leaned against the wall, my heart sinking. The last thing I wanted was to step into this mess. Wyatt's voice was calm but icy. "What exactly were you trying to achieve by sending her here? Did I not make it clear enough that I'm married?" His mother faltered, her tone softening. "Marriage doesn't mean forever. Juliana's father is planning to expand into the domestic market. Do you know how many families are lining up to ally with the Chases? If you married her, the Donovans would be untouchable in this city." I slid down the wall, hugging my knees. My family had fallen from grace long ago, and without Wyatt's support, we'd be nothing. Outside, I heard the click of Wyatt's lighter. "If you're done, I'll have someone take you home. Isabella's still asleep, and I don't want her disturbed." His mother slammed her hand on the table, but Wyatt cut her off. "Let me put it this way. If marriage is so disposable, why don't you divorce Dad and let him marry into the Chase family instead?" The silence that followed was palpable. A moment later, I heard the sharp clack of her heels and the slam of the door. When Wyatt walked in, I was still sitting on the floor. "Awake?" he asked, his tone softening. I looked up, holding out my arms. "My legs are numb." He scooped me up effortlessly, his usual playful smirk replacing the coldness from earlier. "Heard everything, huh?" I nodded, burying my face in his neck. Wyatt sat on the edge of the bed, holding me in his lap. He kissed my ear, his hand gently stroking my back. "I won't let you hear anything like that again." His words breathed life back into the wilted flower in my chest. I cupped his face and planted a loud kiss on his cheek. "Thanks, hubby." Wyatt's eyes darkened instantly. "What did you just call me?" Before I could react, he captured my lips in a searing kiss, his hand cradling the back of my head. His tongue teased mine, leaving me breathless and dizzy. When I dared to open my eyes, I found him watching me intently. He deepened the kiss, the sound of our lips mingling with the rapid rhythm of our breathing. When he finally pulled away, he trailed kisses down my neck, his voice low and husky. "Say it again, honey." His lips traveled lower, and I suddenly remembered my predicament. I pushed him away, scrambling off his lap. "No more kissing during this time of the month," I declared, my face burning. Wyatt leaned back on his hands, a lazy grin spreading across his face. "Why?" I wasn't planning to do anything. I didn't answer, retreating into the walk-in closet and locking the door behind me. A moment later, Wyatt knocked on the door, his voice teasing. "So, is it because you're feeling it too?" Inside, Wyatt was far more focused on me. As he slid my strap off my shoulder, Silas finally gave up, muttering, "Guess they're not in this room," before wandering off. I tried to distract myself by listening to his retreating footsteps, but Wyatt wasn't having it. He nipped at my collarbone, making me gasp. "What's with the distraction?" he teased, his voice a mix of amusement and frustration. "Wishing he'd come back and watch?" I shook my head quickly. No. At first, Wyatt checked in with me after every step. "You okay?" I thought he was being considerate, but as it went on, I realized he was just curious. He kept asking about my thoughts, my feelings, like he was conducting an interview. By the time the room finally stopped spinning, I was exhausted. I fell asleep almost instantly. The next morning, the horse ranch next to the vineyard was buzzing with activity. Wyatt's friends kept urging him to join them, and I nudged him to. "Go ahead. Don't worry about me." Wyatt pulled me into his arms, his voice soft. "You don't want to come?" I opened my eyes and glared at him. "Do you really think I'm in any condition to ride a horse right now?" He didn't look the least bit sorry. "Not satisfied?" I nodded, dead serious. Wyatt smirked, clearly waiting for that answer. "All right, next time, you're on top." I blinked, confused. "Wait, what?" He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door, tossing over his shoulder. "Next time, you take control." And with that, he was gone, leaving me to process his words in stunned silence. I slept until noon, only to wake up and find Landon sitting on the couch across the room. I gasped, sitting up abruptly. Landon smirked, resting his chin on his hand as he looked me over. "Gotta admit, Wyatt's got good taste. You're intriguing." I was suddenly grateful for the long-sleeved pajamas I'd worn because the room's heating was lousy. "How did you get in here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "With a key," he said casually, holding up a card. "Forgot to mention, the bar owner works for me. I set this whole thing up." I reached for my phone, but Landon clicked his tongue, shaking his head. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. You really want to risk me doing something now?" I forced myself to stay calm. "If you try anything, I'll make sure we both go down." He raised an eyebrow, looking almost impressed. You're more interesting than I thought. At first, I just wanted to get back at Wyatt, but now, I think I like you. He started unbuttoning his shirt, his tone casual, like we were discussing the weather. If you play along, this could be fun for both of us. Otherwise, well, it'll be a lot less pleasant for you. When Landon saw my expression soften slightly, he thought he'd convinced me. He relaxed a little, distracted as he fumbled with his belt. That was my chance. I grabbed the edge of the blanket, leapt off the bed, and threw it over his head. I bolted for the door, but Landon was quick. The suite was larger than I'd realized, and before I could reach the handle, he caught up. He slapped me hard in the face, his voice dripping with venom. You bitch. Guess you like it rough, huh? He pinned my wrists with one hand and started tearing at my shirt. I didn't hesitate. I sank my teeth into his hand. Landon howled in pain, releasing me. I didn't look back, sprinting for the door and yanking it open. The hallway wasn't long, and I rounded the corner just as I crashed into a familiar chest. I looked up to see Wyatt's stormy eyes. Behind me, Landon's voice echoed down the hall. You bitch. That little slut. I've had her. She's nothing special. Wyatt's gaze locked on Landon, cold and calculating. Landon faltered, then forced a smirk before slinking away. Wyatt didn't chase him. Instead, he carried me back to the room, his fingers gently brushing my swollen cheek. Does it hurt? I nodded. A little. I tried to lighten the mood, but I bit him worse. Wyatt didn't laugh. He silently applied ointment to my cheek, his voice uncharacteristically serious when he finally spoke. I'm sorry. I leaned in close, my cheeks flushing. Then kiss me, and I'll forgive you. He gave me a faint smile, pressing a soft kiss to the uninjured side of my face. When we left the vineyard, the owner was practically groveling. Mr. Donovan, please understand, Landon threatened me. Wyatt didn't even glance at him, just took my hand and led me to the car. Back home, Wyatt became unusually busy. Even when he came home on time, he'd shut himself in his office until late. He never mentioned Landon, but I knew him well enough to know he wasn't the type to let something like that slide. 2 weeks later, the Trent family's business collapsed. Their stocks plummeted, and amid the chaos, Landon was arrested for assault. When I next heard about him, I was rummaging through old keepsakes. Silas called me, bursting with excitement. Isabella, you won't believe this. That asshole Landon finally got what he deserved. He got castrated in prison, and apparently, he's so messed up he can't even. I tuned him out as I pulled a photo from a hidden drawer. On the back, it read New Year's wish. Flipping it over, I froze. It was me, from last Christmas. Isabella? You listening? I snapped out of it, mumbling a quick response before hanging up. It wasn't hard to guess who was behind Landon's current state. The front door opened, and I ran to Wyatt, holding up the photo. He was rolling up his sleeves, his expression calm. What's up? I tilted my head, studying him. Last year's wish came true. What's this year's? Wyatt paused, then met my gaze. That Isabella would like me a little more. I shook my head. That's impossible. I climbed into his lap, kissing the tip of his nose before looking him in the eye. Because I already like you so much. His shoulders relaxed, and he pulled me closer. Wyatt told me he'd never been one for wishes, birthdays, holidays, it didn't matter. But last New Year's, for the first time, he'd made one. His wish was to marry Isabella.